Self-publishing a manga, managing a Kickstarter and crowdfunding campaign. How does it work in practice? How long does it take? What organization? How much money? Today I'm answering all these questions while sharing the complete behind the scenes of my €7,000 launch after publishing my manga illustrated Fairytales. By the way, the link's in the description if you're curious. Anyway, I thought that simple face cam was boring for such a story, so here's a fully illustrated video for a change. Now, ready? Let's go! Part 1. Independent manga organization. For illustrated Fairytales, I had big plans. A manga with over 200 pages, Ulule pre-orders in April 2022 with a goal of €10,000, sent the book to the printer in the first week of June, and official release in mid-July for the Kaufmann Comics Festival. And just for your info, Ulule is the French equivalent of Kickstarter. I was already drawing the first chapter in 2020, but the truth is that in the end I almost created the whole manga in 6 months, from January to June 2022. You know, when you have 2 years time, you think you can take it easy, you continue drawing client commissions, you produce content on YouTube, you sell at conventions, launch a clothing brand, and you work on the manga somewhere in between. IllusFairy being an independent manga, it's an unpaid project, and I still have to earn a minimum of money to keep a roof over my bunny's head and carrots in its belly. So I had planned a whole organization to keep my business running with automatic savings and easy cash flow between January and July so that I could focus on the last chapters and the crowdfunding campaign at that time. Except that, surprise, at the end of December, when I reviewed my agenda, I had indeed brilliantly eliminated all my to-do list. However, there were still more than 150 pages of the manga to be inked. To speak of a miscalculation would be a big understatement. Call it personal pride or masochism, but when I have a deadline, I go all in no matter what. And I was totally set on the Ulule pre-orders on April 2nd and the official sales on July 16th and 17th. Shifting the dates was totally unthinkable. Even when the printing company told me there was a worldwide paper supply crisis. Even when the quote turned out to be twice the amount I had expected. And even when I still had 100 pages to ink the day before pre-orders were supposed to start. On paper, my organization was perfect. In real life, well, it couldn't be messier. Part 2. The €7,000 crowdfunding. For those of you who don't know about crowdfunding, basically you present a project, people donate, and the money goes to fund the whole thing. Collecting 100% of the goal is important, otherwise everyone will get their money back and you lose all the funds. Having already done 2 crowdfunding campaigns to publish a manga, I was already experienced, but I wanted more. The bare minimum just to finance the book and the shipping was €3,000. My challenge was to go up to 10,000 just to see how far I could push my limits, because yeah, it's fun. In addition to drawing, there was a lot of work behind the scenes, especially in the month before the launch. Preparing the descriptions to make people want to support the project, the visuals, the rewards, a whole editorial calendar to animate social media, content to tease the project on YouTube, newsletter, Patron, paid advertisements, press, interviews, whatever. On April 2nd at 10 AM, I pressed the Launch the Campaign button. And for those of you who have already done a campaign, you must also know this feeling. Like you're glued to your screen all day long, updating the page every 3 minutes to see if the funding has not increased. That was my life for the whole month. So during entire April, I alternated between marketing mornings and drawing afternoons, inking the manga panels, but also handing out flyers, promoting the manga at workshops and conventions, readjusting the posts on social media according to the progress of the campaign. I also had a list of 800 potential sponsors from clients, bookshops, libraries, of which I finally contacted only 200 due to lack of time. My previous manga had been funded within 48 hours, so I expected about a week here given the double amount, but it eventually took 19 days to finally reach the complete funding. Once the 100% was reached, the campaign doubled in volume during the last 10 days, with, as always, its share of unexpected events. For instance, I created a newsletter to motivate people to reach the next goal in the morning, and it actually worked. 1 or 2 hours later, the milestone was reached. So I had to go back for another newsletter to thank people and announce the next milestone. My printing company also told me that the paper I wanted was no longer available because of the crisis, and as I was so busy with running the whole campaign and marketing, my rhythm of inking at least 3 pages a day to meet the deadline was totally screwed up. In the end, the campaign ended successfully on April 30th with a total of 7,325 euros raised on Ulule and by external bank transfers. With the money secured, there was only one thing left to do: finish the remaining 60 manga pages. Part 3. Ready to print or not? I had planned to send the manga to print by June 7th, but due to paper and carrier issues and the printer's waiting list, I decided to finish all the pages by May 20th. You know, just to add an extra layer of stress and pain. So I was really so close to my goal now, and I definitely wanted to be delivered for the convention in mid-July. With my 60 pages still to be inked, but where I absolutely wanted to maintain the quality, I think it was really the most intensive period of my life in terms of drawing. And honestly, I'm really happy not to be working at the pace of Japanese mangaka. This last month was really drawing from morning to evening, where I dropped every other activities and social life. I sometimes had insomnia because of the stress, where I went back to ink between 2 and 5 am. I skipped meals, the tendonitis in my hand came back. I was really drawing too much and not resting. And I really can't tell you how many times I felt like giving up and postponing the book release until September. But there was also this little voice inside me telling me that no, I could do it for the people who believed in this project and who were waiting for it. And indeed, on Saturday, 21st May, the last manga page was inked. Part 4. Delivery, rewards, and official release. The manga was finished, but actually it wasn't. In reality, a crowdfunding campaign is only finished after all the goods have been shipped to your backers. The book delivery itself was already an adventure. One morning at the end of June, I woke up with an email indicating that the manga had been loaded in the truck for delivery the same day. I waited and waited, and at 5 p.m. I suddenly received an email: delivery attempt failed. I was like, what the fuck? And it turned out that the logistics company had given my books to a driver. Just let me quote their email. This driver, to our regret, does not know how to use a GPS and is still driving with maps almost as old as he is, i.e. 78 years. Like, why do you employ delivery drivers knowing full well that they can't use a GPS, and why is the poor man retired in the first place? Anyway, a whole day wasted, all the logistics to deal with, and 2 days later, another delivery attempt which was successful this time. Here we go, 380 kilos of books arrived, and seriously, for those who say that an artist is lazy and stays all day behind his desk, try publishing a book and we'll talk about it again. As for the timing, there were 10 days left before the official launch in Canton, and I absolutely wanted the Ulule contributors to receive the manga before anyone else. Last tasks: signing the books and putting everything in envelopes. And history repeats itself. In an ideal world, I would have finished everything by Thursday to Monday. In real life, well, there were about 60 illustrated book signings to do, parcels to pack instead of envelopes, as I had always done, because the books were much thicker, and the comic con to prepare, and my website that crashed and had to be urgently migrated to another hosting service just when I had put the manga in the shop. It also took several trips to the post office, where the workers always looked at me with dismay when I arrived with a shopping cart full of packages. Finally, on 16th and 17th July, the official sales of illustrated fairy tales were launched in Canton, where I sold over 70 manga. Between old readers coming back to finally read this new book, new ones discovering the series, and the feedback from Ulule contributors, I'm really proud of this project. Of course, there's a lot of room for improvement, starting with stopping myself to always combine ridiculously tight deadlines with overly big projects. For the curious people who really want to go further and launch their own campaign, I've prepared a free mini ebook with the 5 important artist lessons learned from this campaign and a full review on Patron with all the numbers, advertising methods, where the customers came from, to improve my own next crowdfunding and hopefully guide you for yours. Link is in the description, and I'd also love to hear your feedback on this new video format. Let me know if you want to see more in the comments. Next week, back to our classic video with concrete steps to launch your own Kickstarter. Presentation, tiers, rewards, milestones, budget, and more. As always, see you on Tuesdays at 6 p.m, alternating 1 week English, 1 week French to go from art to business. Thank you so much and see you soon!